Oh, hey everybody. Did you really think I was just going to let Keith make one of these videos where he's just talking to the camera by himself and I'm not going to make one? Come on. Top Gun Maverick. I want to talk about it. It came out way back in May. It was the #1 film at the box office over Memorial Day weekend. Now, we're over 3 months later. We had Labor Day weekend. It's the #1 film at the box office still. It's a tremendous success. Amazing staying power. Everyone seems to love it. Why? Well, let's fucking talk about it. I'm Ev with the Bluff Council. This, apparently, is a Hot Rev. Top Gun Maverick. The long-delayed sequel, in more ways than one, to Top Gun, the 1986 classic starring Tom Cruise. Fighter jets. Homoeroticism. There's a lot going on. The sequel was pushed back several times by COVID. Lots of streaming services trying to pick it up. Tom Cruise and his fellow producers refusing, insisting that it gets a cinematic release. Tom Cruise, that old dinosaur, fighting the good fight for movie theaters and big scale cinema experiences. God bless him for it. Top Gun Maverick stars Cruise himself, Miles Teller, Jennifer Connelly. You probably know all this because based on the box office receipts and the ongoing successes of the film, you've probably seen it. I hope you have, because the film is indeed excellent. It's that rare film that critics are loving and audiences are loving. I personally was a little surprised when I started hearing the initial feedback of the film, like, oh, people are really loving it. Oh, people are saying it's really fantastic. I thought, I love the original Top Gun. Love the original Top Gun. How good can this movie be? Maybe that's my own pessimism over the way that films have been going for the last 20 years or so. But how good could a sequel to a film that didn't really need a sequel from 35 years ago? How good could that film be? And the answer is really fucking good. It's really good. It does a lot of things really, really well. And let's talk about some of those things. What's the #1 reason why Top Gun Maverick is so good? It feels like a film. So how does it feel like a film? I mean, that can be a really difficult thing to quantify sometimes. For me, my personal opinion, it often starts immediately with the cinematography, working with the directing, working with the editing, because that's the stuff you see right off the bat. So with Top Gun Maverick, there's a certain majesty that you immediately feel as you're brought into this world where things are real, right? There's tangible things. There's jets flying, they're landing on aircraft carriers, there's ropes snapping, there's people high-fiving. You can tell that you're really there, and you're seeing something that perhaps you haven't seen before, or something that you're seeing in a way that you haven't seen it before. And then we're immediately in a hangar with Tom Cruise, sitting next to a real plane, sitting on a real couch. I mean, these are like, I know the bar is low, but in a world of films now that are just all CGI and you're immediately brought into some space land, like, there's no way to prove this, but I think your brain kind of checks out a little bit subconsciously. If a film starts and you're just like, oh, okay, we're just CGI, I'm just in a computer, versus, oh, I'm at a real place and I'm being introduced to things with intent. There's a lot of intent in this film, and that's another way that it feels like a real film. It checks the boxes you need to check to draw you into this world and to make you emotionally invested. I think the first 10 minutes of this film lay that out expertly, where the sequence of Tom Cruise, Maverick, going in and flying the Dark Star jet and sneaking out, and we get Admiral Kane's on his way. Well, he's not here yet. And they go out and they fly this thing. I don't care. You might not care about Tom Cruise. You might not care about this character. You might not care about the film. You might not care about jets. But the way that scene is constructed and paced, the pacing is excellent. Halfway through that scene, you were like, holy shit. I looked at my wife, fiance at the time, newly married. Congratulations, F, thank you. I looked at her and we both were like, agape. Like, oh my God. And you know Tom Cruise isn't gonna die in the first 5 minutes of this film, but the way the film introduces this situation to you with the music and the shots and the practicality of everything and the emotion, you are like, don't do it. Don't, you all right, you did it, you did Mach 10, don't do it anymore. And he keeps pushing it. You're like, oh my God. Like, when's the last time you felt that way in a movie theater? That's the emotion, that right there. If you can bottle that, that's what a film should make you feel. Even mindless popcorn action films, they should draw out emotions. If they're working hard enough, if they try, if they give a shit about the craft of filmmaking, that's how you should feel. And that, to me, that sensation you feel as you watch that scene of him pushing past, and your palms are getting a little clammy, and you oh my God, this that sensation is what makes a film feel like a film. That is the power of cinema. And I know that's corny, and I know how I sound when I start ranting about the power of cinema and the purity of the art form and all that shit. But like, that is it. So when you sit there and you're feeling those emotions, know that that's what really almost any film should make you feel at some point like, oh, I am overwhelmed with it, whatever emotion it is, sadness, happiness, wonder, inspiration. Like this is what filmmaking should be. And this is, in my opinion, why this film has demonstrated such staying power and why it is generating considerable buzz as being a potential Best Picture nominee in this upcoming Oscars. The sequel to Top Gun, coming out 35 years after the original, is probably going to be nominated for Best Picture. Like, that should tell you everything you need to know about why these things are important, why practicality is important, why care for your story and care for your characters, respect for your characters, it's another thing I want to talk about, why that's so important. Let's talk about the characters. Let's talk about the performances. Let's talk about why this film works with Maverick at its center. I think on their own, the performances are all really good. That's not a surprise. Tom Cruise is a really great actor, even though he kind of pigeonholes himself into these action films now, which, I mean, I guess, God bless, you're the only one making great action films right now, so we'll take what we can get. Love to see him pop up in an ensemble piece here and there, you know. I just watched A Few Good Men the other day again. Let's sprinkle some of those in, Tom. Yeah, you got Miles Teller, who I think is underrated and really, really great in just about everything he does. You got Jennifer Connelly coming in. She's obviously amazing. I'm not that this character is so wonderful or anything, but the performances are all totally solid, do what they need to do, and that's great. I think the fact that this film does not undercut Maverick to blaze a trail for these new young stars, because that's what all these sort of like belated sequels and reimagining and kind of soft reboots and these films that are all coming out from this IP that we all love as kids that grew up in the 80s and the 90s, they've just been kind of pushing our protagonists aside and being like, yeah, whatever, fuck those guys. Here's some kids to get some, the young dollars. Let's get those Gen Z tickets sold. And this film doesn't do that. And it balances, I think, really well the reverence you have for this older character, Maverick, and the story is still kind of about his continuing arc, but it also does a good job of folding in some of those younger, new characters, Rooster, played by Miles Teller, and tying that all together, and that's good. Let's compare that to something like, just the example that pops in my head is Ghostbusters Afterlife, which was a fascinating film in my opinion, but which I was confused the whole time, where it's like, we like Ghostbusters because we like the Ghostbusters, because we like Dan Aykroyd, we like Bill Murray, I don't know these kids. Why? If I like the original Ghostbusters, why do you think I'm gonna like a story of some 8-year-old girl? That's not what I'm watching. I'd love to see a story about these aging ass Ghostbusters who have fallen out of favor and they're struggling with getting old, and all the comedy that could be had of that dynamic, like these old guys desperately hanging on to this heyday after one of their friends, Harold Ramis, has died. This is not a review of Ghostbusters Afterlife, but you get what I'm saying. So there was a world where you would have thought like, oh, Tom Cruise might just kind of show up in the second act to show these kids how it's done, and hey, Grandpa, you still got some moves, and then he's there for the final fight or whatever. Like, I'm so glad they didn't do that. We like Top Gun because we like Tom Cruise, because we like Maverick, because we like his story. And this film really handles him in a graceful and exciting way while still introducing new kind of young talent, should they mistakenly probably try to push this further. I've read that Miles Teller is trying to make Top Gun Rooster, and we'll see. We often debate on the Bluff Council about action films. Most recently in our episode on The Gray Man, where Keith said he thought that film was one of the best action films of the last 5 or 10 or 20 years or whatever. Those dogs could shut the fuck up. That would be great. Fucking dogs. If you own dogs, tell them to shut the fuck up. They just bark all the time. And their owners never say anything. Like what? They just... That's fine. Let him bark. So we argue about action films all the time. When we were arguing about The Gray Man, Keith made the point that, it's not trying to do anything that it's not trying to do. It's great for what it is. It's just like a fun, halfway brainless, action flick. And I took tremendous issue with that for a lot of reasons. But I think Top Gun Maverick is a great illustration of like why I hate The Gray Man. Because like you can make a really entertaining action-oriented film that is still really thoughtful and thoughtful with its craft, right? Like checks the boxes of like, we're gonna concentrate hard on cinematography, on the pacing, the editing, writing that does just what it needs to do, and largely practical effects, practical locations, and we're gonna hold our source material here with a certain in a certain reverence. We're gonna take it seriously, not like winking at the camera and acting for the meme, which I so aptly heard or read somewhere as a description of Chris Evans' performance, which was a lot of fun in The Gray Man, where it's just like, we're all just here having a good time. We all know this is kind of stupid, and we're just having a laugh, and you know, we're just standing in front of blue screens. Like that shit doesn't fly. Like it shouldn't fly. We should all expect more and not accept any less. And that's, to me, Top Gun Maverick. That's the reason why this film is probably going to be nominated for Best Picture. There's an outside chance that Tom Cruise might get nominated for Best Actor. There's an outside chance that Joseph Kosinski might be nominated for Best Director for this like big budget fighter jet movie. You know what I mean? Like that should be crazy. And it is a little bit. 25, 30 years ago, this film would have never been nominated for Best Picture. But that's how far we have fallen, especially in this genre. People are thirsty for like well-intentioned, thought-out, action fun films, because we don't get those anymore. We just get superhero movies, and we get like straight to streaming, The Gray Man, Red Notice, bullshit. And so I think this film's existence and its continued success is your exhibit A as to why we should expect more from our summer blockbustery films. You look at, if you think of the most recent successful action movies, I think of this one. I think of Mission Impossible Fallout, another Tom Cruise, like heavy practical effects, lots of awesome intent in that filmmaking as well. And then you go back to Mad Max Fury Road. That was also nominated for Best Picture. Like, the avenue is there for success, but what those films have in common is practicality. Like, I know that's not all they have in common, and I know that's not the only reason why they are finding success and are remembered so fondly, but like, I scratch my head and I want to tear my beard out, and it stresses me out that there aren't executives sitting in studio boardrooms thinking like, how come Top Gun Maverick is so great? How come it's grossed $1.5 billion on a $170 million budget, and everyone loves it, and it's probably going to be nominated for Best Picture? How can we replicate that? It's like, I want to bust into that fucking room like the Kool-Aid Man and be like, make real shit. Like, make real shit. And you can't, people always say like, oh, the Gray Man, they do it all digitally because it's cheaper. Okay, well, the Gray Man cost $200 million, okay? And it didn't make $1.5 billion. I mean, adjusted for Netflix subscriptions, all that bullshit, I don't know. But it has certainly not had the lasting staying power that Top Gun Maverick has. Top Gun Maverick cost $170 million to make. No small change, but $30 million less than the Gray Man. The return is much better, and you're gonna be on the awards circuit. Like, how can, like, do it. Start doing it. Stop making this fucking swill. I don't understand. People, and again, I apologize. I get really fired up as someone who makes films and who aspires to make even bigger films. This medium means a lot to me. This art form means a lot to me. I want it to be great. I don't want movie theaters to die. I don't want the only way that you can watch entertainment to be fucking some extended series on a streaming service where the motto, have you seen Hulu's new motto, their ad catchphrase, their marketing phrase? Tune out. Turn your brain off and tune in. Like, go fuck yourself. That shit makes me want to walk into oncoming traffic. Tune out? Yeah, tune out and watch this fucking slog I made for you. Hey, fuck it. We're just all a bunch of jokers trying to sell ad revenue and subscriptions. Top Gun Maverick is a really great film. It's a wonderful time. I'm so happy they made it. I'm so happy they treated all of it, the filmmaking process and the characters and the lore and the history, and like with all the respect it deserves. I think that Keith did some hot peppers rating system before, and I'm not gonna do that because I'm not a fucking hack, Keith. I'm just gonna tell you it's really good and you should watch it, and you probably already know it and you probably already have. And I appreciate you guys tuning in for this rant. Of course I looped it back to the Gray Man. How was I not gonna loop it back to the Gray Man? If you haven't watched Top Gun Maverick and you're like, I don't really like that shit, like, watch it. Put it on a big screen. I totally understand the people that were like, go see this in a theater. Go see it in a theater. It's still there. It's ruling the fucking weekend. It's ruling the box office every weekend. So check it out. Thank you guys for watching this video. Thank you guys for loving the Bluff Council, or at least tolerating us mildly.